her name is Philemon, and the other is Nithun Nandakumar. They are young activists who are starting a new platform called Online Offline. It's a youth-centric, youth-run platform for discussions of social issues and political issues. So please welcome Jewel and Nithun.
Thanks, Andrew. Hi, everyone. How are you feeling today?
This is a wonderful crowd.
Yeah, it is. Totally exceeded our expectations. My name is Philemon. I am 20 years old.
My name is Nithun Nandakumar and I'm 22 years old and a very concerned citizen.
Yeah. We are here today to break the misconception that young people are apathetic. There is a notion that the youth of Singapore are apathetic. And even the government said that it's okay for young people to be apathetic. They said they're not too concerned about it. But no, young Singaporeans are not apathetic. The real reason why most of us are reluctant to speak up is the culture of fear and the lack of hope that we are conditioned with. We are conditioned to believe that speaking up against authority will negatively impact our future. We are also conditioned with a lack of hope that even if we speak up, nothing's going to happen, so what's the point? This is even more tragic than apathy because it's not that young Singaporeans don't care, it's that they don't dare. But now, things are changing. We are very proud to announce that this fear is dissipating. After all, what should we fear? Who should we fear? The government? The government is here to serve us. Speaking about the government, shouldn't the government be kind of happy that hundreds have gathered here to bring up their concerns? Shouldn't the government be proud that the people are coming forward and not leaving the burden of governance to them?
And it was with this conviction we came up with an open letter which aimed at the MDA, which would engage us in a dialogue with them. We weren't straight away calling just pull the law out. We want to engage. We want to see what the government wants to say. But in our statement, we highlighted that the broadness and the vagueness of the amendment suggests that the state will have unmoderated power to muzzle virtually anyone who uses the internet. We also pointed out that the Gazette exhibits a discouraging lack of trust and voiced our concerns about how this would have negative consequences on the youth of Singapore. As part of our campaign, we called the minister to rescind the Gazette or to engage us in a dialogue. But we're sorry to say that didn't happen. Kind of expected it, but yeah. Instead, we saw a response from the Ministry of Communications and Information to today. The clarifications were already given, and it kind of came off like that they said, yeah, it's already told, what more do you want to say? You know, they didn't want to hear us more.
What's most puzzling is that this statement was sent to today, not us. We were very disappointed, extremely disappointed that the minister would dismiss our call in such a way and deflect our concerns entirely. It is extremely disheartening that the Minister for Communications, I repeat, communications, would resort to such top-down approaches instead of communicating with us directly. In fact, this whole issue, if you think about it, has been a huge PR disaster for the government from the start. As MassCom students, PR is a part of a curriculum, and the most basic thing you learn is to talk to your stakeholders before making big decisions. You would imagine that a first world government such as ours would have the foresight to speak to its stakeholders. And who are the stakeholders? Stakeholders are us, the people of Singapore. Why were we not consulted?
Instead, what happens is when the government doesn't engage with us in a dialogue, and it sounds like the government is either afraid, they're confused, or they're insecure. Worst of all three. Right? And we don't want that. That's the last thing we want. An event like this has a strong possibility of further distancing Singaporeans from involving in their own societies, especially the young. I mean, personally speaking, when a first world government such as ours comes out and makes a law which doesn't make so much sense. How many of you think this law makes any sense? Doesn't make any sense at all? Exactly. So young people like us, we're conditioned from school all the way to think that, the world is great, it's ideal, Singapore is perfect, the government is taking care of everything. But you grow up, you step out into the real world, and the government does something like this, he's thrown into a haywire, His idealism takes a huge blow. And that's what we don't want. And when this idealism takes blow, he's disappointed. He or she is disappointed. And disappointment, it leads to cynicism. And this cynicism goes to apathy. And this widespread apathy, it has to end now. It has to go away. We need to come forward, we need to speak. Also, there's this interesting thing that goes online, not just online but offline as well, where we tend to alienate those people in government, like it or not, for at least for the next 3-4 years they're with us. We cannot afford to alienate them, we cannot push them away. Alright, it's justifiable because they tend to do that, they do not engage us as well. It's justifiable, but there's a lack of sense in that. The lack of sense is this whole idea of what I do to you, you're going to do to me. Singapore is the only one that's going to lose out to it. Alright, we need to engage with them more than ever. And because the idea of not engaging, or the idea of revenge, is just madness. And this can't be madness, this can't be Sparta, this is Singapore. We do things better, we deserve better here.
Woo!
And I strongly believe in a situation like this. I think it's an adversity, but this is where we come together. And when we come together in times of change, in times of crisis, and this is a very interesting phase for Singapore. And it's at times like these, leaders and governments like to use the phrase, put aside your differences, let us march together. March together is great. Put aside our differences, a lack of sense again. I'll tell you why. When we put our differences aside, there's no solution that we come to. We need to bring our differences to the table. We need to discuss these differences. We need to debate these differences and argue with them. That's the only way forward. I urge that our only way forward is dialogue. This has to be our only forward way, progressive way forward.
On a more personal note, I'd like to say that I'm very invested in this issue because Singapore is very close to my heart. I was born and raised here for most of my childhood, and when I was 12 years old, I went to the US with my family. In 2008, I came back, and before I came back, my teacher in the States told me to do a presentation about Singapore, and I was so excited. I was kind of naive at the time, and I told my peers about the wonders of Singapore, our awesome public transport system, the great food, how Singaporeans are well provided for by our amazing government, our low crime rates, our clean and green city that I was so proud of. Surprisingly, I never really got a culture shock when I was in the States. When I came back in 2008, that's when I got a real culture shock. Singapore had changed so much in the years that I was abroad. And things were not that great. I discovered that Singapore too has its share of people who fall in between the cracks. The homeless, the underprivileged, low-income families. I discovered that while the cost of living was going up, people's incomes were stagnating. I discovered that we're not such a perfect society after all. In 2008, I also discovered local alternative news and community-driven websites. Having contributed to some of these sites, I have personally been witness to the power of online media. Online news and community websites have empowered people to take action, to champion causes, to spread awareness, to speak up against issues that affect them, to stand in solidarity with those in duress, and to effect change. I am now even more proud of my Singapore and my fellow Singaporeans for daring to speak up for what matters to them. And I am not in favor of ill-advised policies such as the new MDA regulations that threaten to rob us of this empowerment. I would like to urge all of you to not lose hope, for that would be the most tragic outcome. This MDA issue has strengthened us to openly call for change. Engage your MPs, engage your ministers, call for dialogues. If they don't respond, then you know what to do come 2016. We'd like to end end with a message from one of our signatories, Ms. Eldora Chan. Eldora is a concerned young citizen.
She's also a media practitioner and blogger as well.
She blogs about politics. And Eldora feels that people should not find her unique because she blogs about politics and that she's more concerned than interested.
The stunner is that she's just 15 years old. That's the kind of examples we have around us.
Yeah.
So we like to end with a quote from Eldora Chan.
Yeah. Eldora says, "The freedom of press is undoubtedly a human right, an important and crucial characteristic of a democratic society. The internet has no doubt filled the gap of the traditional media, SPH, in Singapore, with reports that do not and will never show up in our state-owned media." This is from a 15-year-old Singaporean. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys are great.
Thanks, Jewel and Nithun. Okay, just some numbers. We have some people going around counting how many people have attended this event, because sometimes we hear all kinds of funny numbers in the media. So today we wanted to get it as accurately as we can. So the latest number we have is that there have been more than 2,000 people who have attended this event today. Thank you very much, everyone.